All right, road workplace safety, railroad workplace safety. Subpart B, bridge work safety standards. 214-101. Purpose and scope. The purpose of the subpart is to prevent accidents, casualties arising from the performance of work on the railroad bridges. The subpart prescribes the minimum railroad safety rules for railroad employees performing the work on the bridges. Each railroad contractor may prescribe additional or more stringent operating rules, safety rules, and other special instructions not inconsistent with subparts. These provisions apply to all railroad employees, railroads, and railroad contractors performing work on the railroad bridges. Any work conditions involving the protection of the railroad employees working on the railroad bridges within subject matter addressed with a chapter including respiratory protection, hazardous communication, hearing protection, welding, leading, exposure standards shall be governed by the regulation of the U.S. Department of Labor, Occupational Safety, and Health Administration. 214-103 Fall protection generally, except as provided in the paragraphs B through D. This section, when a bridge worker works over 12 feet or more above the ground of the water of the surface, they shall be provided and they shall have personal fall arrest system or safety net system. A fall protection system required of the standards shall be conformed with the standards set forth in 214-105 of this part. B1. This section shall not apply to the installation of the fall arrest system poses a greater risk than the work to be performed in the action brought by the FRA to enforce all fall protection requirements of the railroad, and railroad contractors should have the burden of proving that the installation of such a device poses greater exposure to the risk than performance of the work itself. 2. The section shall not apply to the bridge workers engaged in inspection of the railroad bridges conducting it in the full compliance with the following conditions. 1. The railroad of the contractor has written in the program into place that requires training and adherence to the use of safety procedures associated with climbing techniques and procedures to be used. 2. The bridge worker to whom the exception applies has been trained and qualified according to the program bridge expectations has been previously voluntarily designated to perform inspections under the provisions of that program and has been accepted the designation. The bridge worker to whom the exception applies is familiar with the appropriate climbing techniques and associated with all the bridge structures, and the bridge worker is responsible for the inspection. 5. For the bridge worker to whom the exception applies to engage solely in the moving of the or about the bridge or observing the measuring and the recording of the dimensions and conditions of the bridge and its components. 5. The bridge worker to whom this section applies to provide all equipment necessary to meet the needs of the safety, including any specialized alternative system required. C. The section should not apply where bridge workers are working on the railway road bridge equipped with walkways, railings, or sufficient height, width, and strength to prevent all fall, so long as the bridge workers do not work beyond the railings or over the side of the bridge on ladders or other elevation devices, or where gaps or holes exist through which the body could fall, or used in place of the falling protection provided with as in 214-105. This paragraph C is satisfied by 1. Walkways, railings meeting the standards set forth in the American Railway Engineering Association Manual of Railway Engineering, and roadways attached with the railroad bridges provided with the bridge workers on the road deck work and move at the distance 6 feet more from the edge of the roadway deck and from an opening through which a person could fall. D. This section should not apply where the bridge workers are performing repairs and inspection for the minor nature of the are complete with working exclusive between the outside of the rails, including but not limited to the routine welding, spiking, anchoring, spot surfacing, or joint bowl replacement. Alright, 214-105 Fall Protection System Standards and Practices. General requirements. All protection systems required by the subpart shall conform to the following. 1. The following protection system shall be used on only for all personnel fall protections. Any fall protection system subjected to the impact loading shall be immediately permanently removed from the surface unless they are fully inspected and determined by the competent person to be undamaged and suitable for reuse. All fall protection systems components shall be protected from the abrasions, corrosions, and any other form of deterioration. All fall protection system components shall be inspected prior to each of the use of wear, damage, corrosion, mildew, and other deterioration. Defective components shall be permanently removed from the service prior to the use, and after any of the components of the system is changed to the bridge, the workers shall be trained in the application limited to the equipment proper to hook up, anchoring, and tie off the techniques, methods of use, and proper method of equipment inspection storage. 6. The railroad and railroad contractor shall provide the prompt rescue for the bridge workers in the event of a fall. Connector shall have the corrosion resistant finish to all the surface of the edges shall be smooth to prevent damage to the interfacing parts of the system. 8. The connector shall be drop forged, pressed, and formed steel and made of the equivalent strength and materials. 9. Anchorages, including single and double-headed anchors, shall be capable of supporting at least 5,000 pounds per bridge worker attached and should be designed to install it and used under the supervision of the qualified person as part of the complete personnel fall protection system that maintains a safety factor of at least 2. B. The personal fall arrest system. All of the components of the personal fall arrest system shall conform to the following standards. Lanyard vertical lifelines that tie on off one of the bridge workers shall have the minimum braking strength of 5,000 pounds. A self-retracting line and lanyard of the automatic limit free fall distance of 2 feet or less and shall have the component capable of sustaining a minimum static tensile load of 3,000 pounds applied with the device with a lifeline lanyard in full extended position. 3. The self-retracting lifelines lanyards that do not limit the free fall of the distance for the 2 feet or less of the rip stitch tearing the deformed lanyard shall be capable of withstanding 5,000 pounds applied to the device with a lifeline lanyard of the fully extended position. 4. Horizontal lifelines shall be designed and installed under the supervision of the component person as part of the complete personal fall arrest system that maintains a safety factor of at least two. Lifelines shall be not made of the natural fiber rope. Body belt shall not be used as components of the personal fall arrest system. The personal fall arrest system shall limit the maximum arresting force of the bridge worker to 1,800 pounds when used with a body harness. 8. The personal fall arrest system shall bring the bridge worker to the complete stop and limit the maximum deceleration distance of the bridge worker travels at 3.5 feet. The personal fall arrest system shall have the sufficient strength to withstand twice the potential impact of the energy of the bridge worker free falling in a distance of 6 feet of the free falling distance permitted by the system, which average is less. The personal fall arrest system shall be arranged so that the bridge worker cannot free fall more than 6 feet and cannot contact the ground or any lower horizontal surface of the bridge. Personal fall arrest system shall be worn with the attachment point of the body harness located in the center of the weaver's back near shoulder level and above the wearer's head. 12. When vertical lifelines are used, each bridge worker shall be provided with a separate lifeline. The devices used to connect with the horizontal lifeline they may become a vertical lifeline shall be capable of locking in either direction. D-rings or snap hooks shall be capable of sustaining a minimum tensile strength of 3,600 pounds without cracking, breaking, or taking permanent deformation. D-rings or snap hooks shall be capable of sustaining a minimum tensile strength of 5,000 pounds. Snap hooks should be not connected to each other. Snap hooks shall be dimension compatible with the member to which they are connected to prevent unintentional disengagement and shall be locking snap hook designed to prevent unintentional disengagement. Unless a locking type of the snap hook shall not be engaged directly next to the webbing of the roping of the wire rope to each D-ring with another snap hook of the other connector is attached to the horizontal lifeline to any object that is incompatibly shaped and dimensioned in the relation to the snap hook so that an unintentional disengagement could occur. Continuing, C. Safety net system. Using a safety net system shall conform to the following standards and practices. The safety net shall be installed as closely practicable under the working surface of the bridge. Working areas are working but shall not be installed more than 30 feet below such surface. And if the distance from the working surface of the net exceeds 30 feet, bridge workers shall be protected by the personal fall arrest system. The system net should be installed such as any of the fall for the working of the surface of the net is unobstructed except as provided with the section. Safety nets and net installation shall be drop tested in the job site after the installation before being used in a fall protection system whenever relocated after a major repair at the 6-month intervals if left in one place. The drop test shall consist of 400-pound bag of sand of 30 inches plus or minus 2 inches in diameter dropped into the net and the highest but not to the less than 3.5 feet working surface of the bridge workers are to be protected. When the railroad and railroad contractor demonstrate that the drop test is non-feasible, as a result, the test is not performed. The railroad contractor designated with the component person shall certify that the net and installation are in compliance with the provision of this section, preparing the certification record prior to the use of the net. 2. The certification shall include the identification of the net, the date it was determined that the net was in compliance with this section, and the signature of the person making this determination, such as the person's signature, shall certify that the net and the installation are in compliance with the section, and the most recent certification are in each net installation should be available as a job site whereas the subject net is located. Safety nets in their installation shall be capable of absorbing and an impacting force equal to the provided that produces by the drop test specified in this section. The safety net shall be installed such that there is no contact within the surface of the structures below the net when subjected to the impact of the force equal to the drop test specified in this section. Safety nets shall extend to the outward from the outermost projection of the work surface as follows. 1. When the vertical distance from the working level to the horizontal plane of the net is 5 feet or less, the minimum required horizontal distance of the outer edge of the net is beyond the edge of the working surface is 8 feet. When the vertical distance from the work level to the horizontal plane is net 5 feet but less than 10 feet, the minimum required horizontal distance of the outer edge of the net beyond the edge of the working surface is 10 feet. All right, 3. When the vertical distance from the working level is horizontal plane of the net is more than 10 feet, the minimum required horizontal distance to the outer edge of the net beyond the edge of the working surface is 13 feet. Defective nets should not be used. Safety nets shall be inspected at least once a week for mildew, wear, damage, and other deterioration. Defective components shall be removed permanently from service. 9. Safety nets shall be inspected after any occurrence that could affect the integrity of the safety net system. 10. The tool scraps and other materials that have fallen into the safety net and should be removed as soon as possible, at least before the next work shift. Each safety net shall have a border rope for webbing with the minimum breaking strength of 5,000 pounds. The maximum size of each safety net mesh opening shall not exceed 36 square inches and shall not be longer than 6 inches on any of the side mesh. Center the center mesh rope of the webbing. All mesh crossings shall be secured to prevent enlargement of the mesh opening. 13. Connections between safety net panels shall be strong as integral, and net components shall be spaced not more than 6 inches apart. Continue on with railroad workplaces bridge. 214.107. Working over and adjacent to the water. The bridge workers working over and adjacent to the water with a depth of 4 feet or more where the danger of drowning exists shall be provided with it. Shall use the life vests and buoyant work vessels in compliance with the U.S. Coast Guard requirements of Title 46.2 of Code Federal Regulation 160.1047, 052, and 053. Life preservers compliance with the U.S. Coast Guard requirements in the Title 46 CFR 160.105.055 shall also be in ready access. These sections shall not apply to the bridge workers using personal fall of rest system that are safety subnets that comply with the subpart of the bridge workers who are working with under the provisions of title under statute 214.103 B2 C and D of this part. Prior to each of the use, all flotation devices shall be inspected defective to reduce the strength of the buoyancy by a designated individual trained by the railroad and the railroad contractor. Defective units shall not be used. Alright, where life vest is required, paragraph A of this section, ringing the buoys within at least 90 feet of the line shall be provided with readable available for the emergency rescue operation. The distance between the ring buoys should not be exceeding 200 feet. D. Wherever the life vests are required, at least one life-saving skiff and an inflatable boat, an equivalent to the device, shall not be immediately available if it is determined that a competent person that the environmental conditions include weather, water speed, and terrain merit an additional protection of the skiff or the boat shall be manned. 214.109. Scaffolding. Scaffolding is used in connection with the railroad bridge maintenance, inspection, testing, and construction. Shall be constructed and maintained in the safe condition, meeting the following the minimum requirements. Each scaffold and scaffold component, except the suspension ropes and the guardrail system that include the footing of the anchorage, shall be capable of supporting without failure in its own weight at least 4 times the maximum intended load applied or transmitted to the scaffold component. The guardrail system shall be capable of withstanding without failure the force of at least 200 pounds applied within 2 inches on the top of the edge and in any outward or downward direction at any point along the top of the edge. The top edge height of the top rails equivalent to the guardrail system member shall be at 40 inches and plus or minus 3 inches. Supporting shall be at least intervals not to exceed 8 feet. The tail board shall be a minimum of 4 inches in height. Mid-rails, screen, and mesh, intermediate and vertical members, solid of the panels, and the equivalent structural members shall be capable of withstanding and without late failure of force that at least of 150 pounds applied in any downward or outward direction at any point along with the mid-rail of the other member. Mid-rail shall be installed at a height midway between the top of the edge of the guardrail system and the working level. Scaffolds shall not exceed the all-terrain move while they are occupied. This is paragraph does not apply to the vertical movement of the mobile scaffolds that are actually designed to move vertically while occupied. Any access ladder, the equivalent to safe access, shall be provided. All exposed surfaces shall be prepared and cleared to prevent injury due to the lacerations, puncturing, tripping, or the falling of the hazard. All scaffold designs, construction, repair shall be completed by the competent individuals trained and knowledgeable about the design criteria intended to the use of structural limitations and procedure for the proper repair. F. The manual propelled mobile ladder standard scaffolds should be conformed to the following. All manual propelled mobile ladder standards and scaffolds should be incapable of carrying the design loads. All ladder stand scaffold components shall be capable of supporting without failure displacement, settlement in its own weight, and added at least 4 times the maximum intended load applied with the transmitted to the ladder stand in its scaffold and scaffold component. Alright, all exposed surfaces shall be free of the sharp edges of the birds. The maximum work level height shall not exceed 4 times the minimum of the least base dimensions of any of the mobile ladder, stand, or scaffold where the basic mobile unit does not meet the requirement. Suitable outrigger of the frames shall be employed to achieve this least base dimension of the equivalent provision shall be made of the guy braced to the unit against the tipping. The minimum platform width for any of the work levels shall not be less than 20 inches of the mobile scaffold. Towers, ladders, stands shall be having a minimum step within 16 inches. The steps of the ladder shall be fabricated from the slip-resistant treads. Guardrails and mid-rails shall be conformed to the requirements listed in the paragraph A of this section. 7. A climbing ladder or the stairway shall be provided with the proper access egress and shall be affixed or built into the scaffold so located that it is used to will and not have a tendency to tip the scaffold. Wheels or casters shall be capable of supporting without failure at least 4 times the maximum intended load applied transmitted to the component. All scaffold casters shall be provided with a positive wheel and or swivel lock to prevent movement. The ladder standing of the shall have at least two of the 4 casters and shall be in swivel type. 214.11. Personal protective equipment generally, with the exception of the foot protection of the railroad contractor shall provide and the bridge worker shall be appropriate personal protective equipment described in this subpart in all operations where there is an exposure to hazardous conditions or where in the subpart indicates the need for the using of such equipment to reduce the hazard of the railroad bridge workers. The railroad or the railroad contractor shall require to use the foot protection only when the potential for a foot injury exists. 214.113. Head protection. Railroad bridge workers working in areas there is possible dangers of the head injury from impact or from falling devices, flying objects, or from electrical shock and burn shall be provided and shall wear protective helmets and helmets of the protection of the railroad bridge workers against impact and the penetration of falling or flying objects from the high voltage electrical shock. Burn shall conform to the national consensus standards of the industry. Head protection. American National Standards Institute Z89.1 1986 protective headwear for industrial workers. This corporation by the reference was approved for the Director of the Federal Registry in accordance with the Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 552A and Code Federal Regulations 1 Part 51. Copies may be obtained with the American Institute National Standards Institute, the 25 West 43rd Street, New York 10336. Copies may be inspected by the Federal Railroad Administration, docket 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. at the National Archives Record Administration for information on the availability for the material of the National Archives Record Administration. Call 214.115. The foot protection. Railroad and railroad contractors shall require the railroad bridge workers to wear foot protection equipment that would potentially with potential foot injury may result with the impact of the falling or flying objects, electrical shock or burns or other hazardous conditions. B. Safety toe footwear from the railroad bridge workers shall conform to the national consensus standard of the safety toe footwear, American National Standard Institute, American National Standards, under personal protection footwear. This incorporated by the reference was approved by the Director of the Federal Register in accordance with the Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 55.2a and Code Title 1, Code of Federal Regulation Part 51. Copies may be obtained by the American National Standard Institute, 45 West Standard West, the 43rd Street, New York, New York, 136. Copies may be inspected by the Federal Railroad Administration docket clerk. 1200 New Jersey Avenue. Also, it's going to 214-117 AI and face protection. Railroad bridge workers shall be provided with the shall wear eye and face protection equipment when potential eye and face injury may result from the physical, chemical, radiant agents. Eye and face protection equipment required for the section shall conform to the national consensus standard of the occupational, educational eye and face standard protection for the the American National Standard Institute. The practice for the occupational, educational eye and face protection. This incorporation of the reference was approved by the Director of the Federal Register in accordance with Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 55.2a and Title 1 Code of Federal Regulation Part 51. Copies may be obtained by the American National Standard Institute, and also the copies may be inspected by the Federal Railroad Administration docket and or the National Archives Records Administration. Face and eye protection equipped with the required of the section shall be kept clean and good repair. Use of the equipment with the structural and optical defects is prohibited. Railroad bridge workers whose vision requires the use of the corrective lenses will require the section to wear eye protection shall be protected with goggles and spectacles of one or more of the following. The spectacles whose protective lenses provided optical correction of the frame, which includes shielding and against objects reaching the wearer's eye around the lens. Goggles that can be worn over the corrective lens without disturbing the adjustment of the lens. And 3, goggles that incorporate the correction lens and mounted behind the protective lenses. Subpart C, roadway worker protection.